My beloved child, pause here for a moment, because what you are about to hear was not placed before you by accident. Do not rush past these words. Something happened today, something your soulmate has been trying to understand, something that shook the silence around their heart, and something they can no longer pretend did not occur. Even now, their spirit is forming the same sentence again and again: I need to tell you what happened today. They do not know how to begin. They do not know whether you will believe them. But they know that after today, remaining silent will cost them more than speaking the truth. There was a moment earlier when everything around them appeared normal. The room looked the same. The voices around them sounded familiar. The day had begun like any other day. Yet beneath that ordinary surface, heaven was arranging an encounter that would force them to face what they had been avoiding. They did not wake up expecting to think about you so deeply. They did not expect your name to enter a conversation. They certainly did not expect someone close to them to say something that would leave them completely still. But before this day could end, a truth they had hidden from themselves was spoken aloud by another person. Stay with these words, because what happened was not merely an emotional moment. It was the beginning of a decision. Your soulmate has been carrying two versions of their life inside them. In one version, they continue as they are, acting composed, pretending the distance does not affect them, convincing everyone that they have moved forward. In the other version, they stop hiding, admit what your presence awakened within them, and risk everything necessary to discover whether your connection still has a future. For a long time, they believed they could keep these two worlds separate. They thought they could live one life publicly while protecting the truth privately. But today, those two worlds collided. Someone looked directly at them and asked a question they were not prepared to answer. It was not asked with anger. It was not asked to embarrass them. That is what made it impossible to escape. The question was quiet, sincere, and simple: why do you become a different person whenever they are mentioned? Your soulmate tried to laugh. They looked away. They gave an answer that sounded reasonable, but the person sitting near them did not accept it. There was a pause, and inside that pause, your soulmate felt exposed, not in a cruel way, but in the way a locked room feels exposed when sunlight enters through a door that was never supposed to open. They were asked again, what really happened between you two? That question reached a place inside them they had kept guarded for longer than anyone knew. Their mind returned to moments they had tried to bury, conversations with you that stayed with them long after they ended, the way your absence felt louder than anyone else's presence, the strange peace they experienced whenever they imagined speaking honestly to you. They remembered the exact moments when fear took control. They remembered the message they almost sent. They remembered the apology they rehearsed but never delivered. And suddenly, the explanation they had given everyone else no longer felt believable, not even to them. My child, there are times when heaven does not reveal the truth by sending thunder. Sometimes the truth arrives through one ordinary question spoken at the exact moment a heart is finally ready to hear it. Your soulmate lowered their voice and admitted something they had never said so clearly before. They said, I thought I had more time. The person with them did not immediately understand. They asked, more time for what? Your soulmate became silent again. Their breathing changed. Their hands tightened as if they were holding back an entire confession. Then they said, "More time to fix what I left unfinished." That unfinished thing is connected to you. They have been haunted by the belief that they waited too long. They have imagined you becoming emotionally distant. They have wondered whether someone else has learned how to value what they failed to protect. They have feared that the door between you may still exist but may no longer open as easily as it once did. These thoughts have followed them quietly, especially during the hours when no one is watching. But today, the fear became real in a new way, because they heard something they were never expecting to hear. The person across from them revealed that your soulmate's feelings had been obvious for a long time. They said, "You speak about them differently." Your soulmate denied it. The person continued, "You defend them even when they are not here. You remember details about them that you forget about everyone else. And every time you say you are done, your face tells a different story." Those words caused something inside your soulmate to break open. Not because they were harsh, but because they were accurate. Your soulmate had believed their emotions were hidden. They thought no one could see the way your name altered their energy. They thought their silence had protected their secret. But today they discovered that silence had revealed more than words ever could. Do not skip what comes next, because this is where the conversation changed. Your soulmate was asked, "Do you still love them?" For several seconds, there was no answer. The world did not stop, yet for them it felt as though everything had become suspended. They could hear the sounds around them, but those sounds felt distant. Their thoughts moved toward you before they could control them. They remembered your patience. They remembered your strength. They remembered the times you tried to understand what they could not explain. They also remembered the ways they confused you, disappointed you, or left you questioning whether your connection had ever been as meaningful to them as it was to you. The truth is, it was meaningful. It frightened them because it was meaningful. Some people run from connections that feel empty. Your soulmate ran because the connection felt powerful enough to change the life they had learned to control. Loving you was not the part they feared most. Being fully seen by you was. You touched emotional places they had hidden behind independence, humor, distraction, responsibility, and pride. You made them feel something they could not manage through logic. And instead of surrendering to that truth, they created distance and called it caution. Today, they finally admitted what that distance had cost them. Their answer was not dramatic. It was barely louder than a whisper. Yes. One word. But that one word changed the entire atmosphere around them. The person sitting with them leaned back, studying their face, and asked the question your soulmate had been avoiding in every possible form, "Then why are you not telling them?" Your soulmate tried to explain the timing. They spoke about complications, misunderstandings, responsibilities, and fear. They mentioned things that happened in the past and circumstances that made everything feel uncertain. Some of those reasons were real. Some were excuses built around real fear. But as they continued speaking, they began hearing themselves differently. For the first time, they realized that every explanation ended in the same place. they had allowed fear to make decisions that love should have made. My child, this is why your heart may have felt unsettled today. This is why you may have suddenly remembered them without knowing why. This is why an old emotion may have risen without warning. The connection between two hearts does not always announce itself through visible signs. Sometimes one person finally speaks the truth, and the other feels the echo before knowing what caused it. But the conversation did not end there. The person with your soulmate said, "You keep saying you do not want to hurt them, but your silence may be hurting them more than the truth ever could." Those words struck deeply. Your soulmate had told themselves that staying away was an act of protection. They believed that until they had perfect clarity, they should remain quiet. They believed they needed to resolve every internal conflict before approaching you. They believed uncertainty made them unworthy of communication. But today, someone showed them another possibility. Perhaps their silence had not protected you. Perhaps it had left you carrying questions that were never yours to answer alone. That realization became unbearable. They thought about the moments when you may have blamed yourself. They imagined you wondering whether you were too much, not enough, too emotional, too distant, too trusting, or too difficult to love. And the thought that you might have questioned your worth because of their fear filled them with regret. Your soulmate said, "They probably think I never cared." The response came immediately, "Then tell them the truth before that belief becomes permanent." Something changed in your soulmate's eyes. Until that moment, the conversation had been emotional. After that sentence, it became urgent. They reached for their phone. Yes, my child, they reached for it with the intention of contacting you. Their fingers moved toward your name, but they stopped. Not because they changed their mind. They stopped because the moment they saw your name, the weight of everything they wanted to say became real. There is a difference between imagining a confession and standing one touch away from delivering it. Their heart began racing. They opened an old conversation. They read words from the past. And with each line, they remembered not only what happened between you, but what almost happened. There were possibilities hidden in those messages. There were signs of affection disguised as ordinary concern. There were moments when one more honest sentence could have changed everything. Your soulmate saw those moments clearly today, perhaps more clearly than ever before. They realized how often you had left the door open without forcing them to enter. They realized how many chances you gave them to speak without judgment. And they understood that your patience was never weakness. It was love waiting for courage to meet it. They began typing. The first sentence was, "I need to tell you what happened today." They stared at it. Then they erased it. They typed, "I spoke about you today." They erased that too. They tried again, "There is something I should have told you a long time ago." That sentence remained on the screen longer than the others. Their thumb hovered near the button that would send it to you. For a moment, they were ready. The person beside them said nothing, because they understood that this was a threshold your soulmate had to cross alone. But then a notification appeared. It was from someone else, someone connected to the situation that had kept your soulmate emotionally divided. The message was brief, but its timing was impossible. to ignore. It referred to a decision that needed to be made today. A decision your soulmate had delayed. A decision that could either clear the path toward you or close it more firmly than before. Your soulmate read that message twice. The person near them asked, "What is it?" They replied, "This is what I was afraid would happen." But what happened next surprised even them. Instead of putting the phone away, your soulmate stood up. They walked toward a quieter place, away from every voice, away from every expectation. They looked at the unfinished message to you, then at the notification from the other person. Two paths were now visible on one screen. One path led back toward the life they had been maintaining. The other required honesty, consequences, and the possibility of losing control over everything they had carefully managed. They closed their eyes. And in that silence, they remembered something you once said. It may have been a sentence you spoke directly. It may have been a feeling you expressed in another way. But the meaning returned to them with extraordinary clarity. Love cannot grow where truth is continually postponed. Your soulmate felt as though those words were being spoken to them again, not from the past, but from somewhere deeper. They had spent so long asking for a sign, yet they had ignored the most important sign of all. Every road they took to forget you eventually returned them to the same truth. They opened their eyes and made a choice. Not the full choice, not yet. But the first irreversible part of it. They responded to the other person. Their message contained only a few lines, but those lines challenged an arrangement, expectation, or emotional obligation that had kept them trapped. They said they could no longer continue pretending. They said a conversation needed to happen. They said they were tired of making decisions based on what would disappoint everyone else least. When they sent it, their hands trembled. Then something unexpected happened. The reply came almost immediately. Your soulmate expected anger. They expected accusations. They expected pressure. Instead, they received a response that revealed another secret, something that had been known by others but hidden from them. The message suggested that the person they feared confronting had already sensed where their heart truly belonged. The words on the screen were, "I always knew this was about them." Your soulmate could not move. This changed everything, because it meant the conflict they thought they had hidden was never actually hidden. The people around them had noticed the emotional distance. They had noticed the way your soulmate became quiet after hearing your name. They had noticed that even during supposedly happy moments, part of them seemed absent. Everyone had been waiting for the truth to surface. And today, it finally did. But there was more in that reply. A second message arrived. It said, "Before you contact them, there is something you need to know." Your soulmate's heart dropped. They called the person immediately. The call lasted only a few minutes, but during those minutes, they learned about a conversation involving you, a conversation they had never been told about. Someone had heard something regarding your feelings, your current situation, or a choice you had made after the distance began. The information was incomplete, but powerful enough to leave your soulmate shaken. They asked, "Why did no one tell me?" The answer was, "Because we thought you had already chosen to let them go." Your soulmate whispered, I never chose that. And that was the moment the truth became undeniable. They had not let you go. They had only delayed facing what holding on required. The call ended, but your soulmate remained standing in silence. Their unfinished message to you was still open. Their mind was filled with questions. What had been said about you? Was it true? Had you been waiting? Had you finally closed the door? Were you about to make a decision of your own? The uncertainty that once gave them an excuse to remain silent now became the reason they could not wait any longer. They returned to the person who had first questioned them. That person looked at their face and immediately knew something had changed. Your soulmate said, "I may have made the biggest mistake of my life." The response was gentle but firm, "Then stop making it." My child, hear this clearly, regret is not always given to punish the heart. Sometimes regret is the final alarm before transformation. It reveals what matters while there is still time to act differently. Your soulmate is not being shown the past so they can remain trapped inside it. They are being shown the past because today may become the day they finally stop repeating it. Yet there is something they still have not told anyone. During the call, they heard your name connected to a date, a place, or an upcoming event. It suggested that something in your life may soon change. Your soulmate does not know the complete story, but they believe time is moving faster than they realized. That is why the message inside them feels urgent. They are afraid that waiting even a little longer may mean speaking after the moment has passed. They began typing to you again. This time, they did not erase the first sentence. I need to tell you what happened today. Then they added, I heard something, and I do not know whether it is true. They paused. They wanted to ask whether you still felt the connection. They wanted to confess how many nights they had imagined this conversation. They wanted to explain why they disappeared emotionally whenever things became real. They wanted to tell you that your name had been spoken today and that hearing it exposed every lie they had told themselves. But before they could continue, another person entered the room. This person had not been part of the earlier conversation. They did not know what your soulmate had just admitted. Yet the first words they spoke were about you. Your soulmate looked up in disbelief. The person said, there is something you should know before you contact them. For the second time that day, those exact words reached them. Now your soulmate understood that this was no longer coincidence. Too many conversations were pointing toward the same hidden truth. Too many people knew fragments of a story your soulmate had never heard completely. Something had been happening around your connection while both of you remained separated by silence. The newcomer sat down and began explaining. They revealed that someone had recently asked about your soulmate. They would not immediately say who. They only said that the question had been asked with emotion, and that your name was part of the conversation. Your soulmate demanded to know the full truth, but the person hesitated. They were unsure whether sharing it would help or make everything more complicated. Your soulmate said, I have already lost enough time. Tell me. The person took a breath and said that you may have received information about your soulmate, information that was incomplete, distorted, or missing the most important context. Something you heard may have caused you to believe your soulmate had made a final choice against your connection. Your soulmate's face changed. They asked, what were they told? The answer was not given immediately. Instead, the person asked, before I tell you, answer one question. If they gave you one last chance to be completely honest, what would you say? Your soulmate did not hesitate this time. They said, I would tell them that I never stopped caring. I would tell them I was afraid of what loving them would require me to change. I would tell them I acted distant when I was overwhelmed. I would tell them they were never difficult to love, I was difficult to reach. And I would tell them that what happened today made me realize I cannot keep waiting for a perfect moment that may never come. The room became silent. The person listening lowered their eyes as though your soulmate's answer confirmed something they already suspected. Then they reached into their pocket and brought out their phone. On that phone was a message. A message connected to you. Your soulmate recognized your name near the top of the screen, and for one suspended second, they forgot how to breathe. The message had not been sent to them. It had been sent to someone else. They could see only the first few words, but those few words were enough to make their heart race. The message began, please do not tell them yet, but today I finally decided. Your soulmate reached for the phone, desperate to read the rest. But before the screen was turned toward them, the person pulled it back and said, you need to understand something first. Once you read this, you cannot continue living the way you have been living. You will have to choose. And my child, the decision hidden in the rest of your message is the very thing your soulmate has been trying to tell you about ever since.